Welcome to the Retire with Confidence podcast, your go-to podcast for all things retirement planning and financial well-being. Join us as we delve into topics such as financial planning strategies, navigating taxes and investments, maximizing Social Security benefits, and even exploring personal health and wellness tips. Get ready to gain valuable insights and empower yourself to retire with confidence.
Welcome back to the Retire with Confidence podcast. This episode is brought to you by CPAs for Hire, which is our sister company. It's an accounting firm that works with business owners and gets their accounting and reporting in good order. So if you were looking to retire with confidence and own your own business and want to get your books in order and make sure that things are straightened out, or if you're just looking for some comfort in knowing that what's been done in the past is still going to keep working, visit cpasforhire.com and you can book a time or give them a call to look through your accounting and help you out in that regard. The theme today is that winners win. Winners win. What does that mean? Well, if you look at a lot of sports teams, a lot of investments, take your pick. In fact, when we talk about sports teams, you don't even have to like the sports team, but you still have to respect the fact that they just win. Maybe you feel like they cheat or something. I don't know, but they still win over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. But along the way, at many points in time, probably some people counted them out. Same thing happens with investments. Apple's probably the best known one out there. Obviously, they're a behemoth now, but a lot of people don't recall that they have been counted out so many times over the past, 4 or 5 decades. I've lost count of how many times people have counted them out and said, no, the competitors have come up and done something better. Might have been true in the short term, but Apple bounced back. Even as recently as probably 2011, 2012, people would look at Apple and go, there's the hardware company. Something else better will come along. That didn't work. They just kept winning. There's so many examples of that in sports and investments and strategies, because this works for strategies as well, that we have to understand that we don't want to just abandon things that are tried and true and have just kept winning over and over again. Obviously, we hear this a lot with investments. I mentioned Apple as an example. We've heard so many others over the years where people said, they've had a good run. It's over. I can go down a list. Think of Chipotle. For a long time, that'll die down. It'll be a fad. Chipotle is too expensive anyway. And that'll go away. Still hasn't. They're still kicking butt. Netflix. How many times have people counted Netflix out? And for good reason. There was a lot of times where they were just flat out losing money and making big investments that maybe they wouldn't have worked out. But over time, they've just kept winning and winning and winning. Microsoft, same thing, over and over, winning and winning. It's not that won't come to an end. All things come to an end. So we're not necessarily saying that, for the next 100 years, all these things are still going to work. But the point is, you're better off sticking with them than betting against them. This is not only applicable for things like individual stocks or even individual asset managers or professional athletes. It's also applicable for strategies and fundamentals. So when we talk about investment structures and why we like to have income for 5 years from individual bonds and cash and money markets and CDs, there's a reason for that. It works over and over again. That way, you've got your guaranteed income. You can let the rest of the money grow over the long term. We'll even hear this in things like what are commonly known as 60-40 strategies. So 60-40, for those who don't know, it's just an allocation where you say, okay, we're going to put 60% in stock funds, 40% in bond funds, and we have a nice allocation where it's still going to grow, but the bonds offset some of the risk along the way. So 60-40 has really been a gold standard for a long time now, a couple decades. Well, back in 2012, what happened was interest rates started to shoot up really quickly quickly than they just about ever have, that at least in recent history. So what it did was it actually really hurt the bond funds. And so 60/40 didn't work very well that year in 2022. So all we would hear about is, oh, 60/40 strategy is dead. It's gone, forget about it, not going to work. I don't know about that. It's worked pretty well for a long time. Did it have one bad year? Yes. Anything is allowed to have one bad year or one bad month or even two bad years. I don't know. Things are allowed. It doesn't matter if it's individual investment, an individual strategy, a sports team. You're going to have a bad year, a bad season, a bad period. That doesn't mean you count it out. So 60/40 strategy, for example, is still very alive and well, even though we prefer to use the individual bonds for income. That's a whole separate debate and discussion. But these strategies are tried and true over and over and over and over again. Don't count them out and just run off to something else immediately that sounds fancy, sounds nice, might work just fine, might be totally fine, but let's not abandon the core fundamentals of, especially in retirement. How are we going to get money out of our investments? How are we going to protect it from too much taxes? Because that's going to be a big bill for us. How do we structure everything? How should we look at the big picture? These are tried and true over time strategies. There may be some tweaks that are needed. There may be some other things that we can do to supplement them that are new. Totally fine. But let's not abandon what works. Winners win, whether it's winning strategies, winning investments, winning people. Winners win. Don't count them out so quickly. Let them work for you. Let the strategies work. Let the people work. Let the investments work. Let the plan work. Let it all work over time. Don't abandon it right away. Understand what might throw you off as a human being, which is all very normal and natural. Understand what those triggers might be and how we could avoid going off track. Stay on our path. If you know where you're going, you know what the plan is, you know what the strategy is, you know what the structure is, keep that going. I'll use one last anecdote because we also see this all the time with whether it's people trying to start a business or maybe they're trying to get in shape. It takes time. You have to set the strategy, right? But it takes time to build the business, or it takes time to build strength personally. It takes time to lose weight personally. So in those early periods, and even some periods along the way, you might not see that progress or that growth that you want to see. That doesn't mean you abandon everything. In fact, it really means you really need to stay on track with what works and what has won time and time again. So when we're talking retirement planning, try not to jump to too many different things and too many different investment ideas and different strategies. Understand what has worked over the long term, what will work for you, and then stick with it because winners win.